Welcome to The Real Pro-Choice, where you will hear stories of miraculous healings and restoration. Is there anything I can do to stop this? That was this father's plea to save his baby's life. Find out what today's guest endured concerning a choice he had no say in. Next.
The choices we make affect our lives. Sometimes our choices not only affect our own lives, but everyone connected to us. Maybe even those we're not aware of. God says, choose life, so that you and your descendants may live. Join Donna Grisham and her guests as they share the choices they've made and how Jesus has set them free. Next on The Real Pro-Choice.
Welcome. I'm here with James Durbin. He is a husband and father to 4 children. And welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And you are also the youngest of 9 children. You were raised in a very large family.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're going to jump in and we're going to go all the way to age 21.
Okay.
You were 21. There's something that happened. Your fiance at the time, she comes home and she tells you that she's made a doctor's appointment. She's got a doctor's appointment, and you are going to take her to the doctor's appointment, correct? Okay. Start from there and share.
So she came home one day from work and just told me that she had a doctor's appointment. She would like me to go with her. Mm-hmm. Not thinking anything of it. I'm like, okay, I'll drive you there. Not a big deal. We get to the doctor's appointment, and it was Planned Parenthood was the doctor's office, which I thought was kind of weird, but they do family life planning and stuff like that, as well as other things. So we're sitting in the waiting room, just thinking up to this point, okay, just a normal doctor's appointment. I still remember the smell of it, like when I think about it. There was a lot of people there, not very many males though, which I thought was a little strange, but I was trying to be supportive. Mm-hmm. Sat there maybe 30, 45 minutes. Nurse comes out, calls her name. I'm thinking that she's just going to go in.
Right.
She asked me to come in with her. Mm-hmm. I thought that was kind of unusual, but okay, I'll come in with you. She gets undressed and dressed in a gown, gets on a table, which is what I imagined. I'd never seen one at the time, but I imagined was like a obstetrician table.
Right.
It had
gynecologist.
Yes, yes. So I'm thinking, this is strange. I've never had any female asked to go to those types of doctor's appointments.
Right.
Right. So we're sitting there, the nurse checks all of her vitals, does all the exam work, I guess. And just sitting there waiting, it's just her and I, and I just asked her, I said, why are we here? And she just was really silent. I thought, are you okay? Is something wrong? What's going on? And then she told me that she was pregnant. I was ecstatic. Uh-huh. I come from a huge family. I always wanted kids. This was like, oh my gosh, amazing, right?
Yeah.
She did not feel the same way. She didn't have the same reaction.
You had wanted children. In fact, you wanted a large family.
Correct.
Because you grew up in a large family.
Right.
You'd always wanted that.
It was just something that I had always wanted for myself, that I had grown up in, just something that I had pictured myself.
Right. So her taking you to a doctor's appointment, because that's what you're still thinking. It's a doctor's appointment.
Correct.
And she's on this table and she's telling you at that moment. And didn't you think it was a little strange that she waited till the doctor's office to tell you that she was pregnant?
I did, because, now fast forward 20 years, my current wife was super excited and told me at home. So I
Right.
thought,
So
yeah.
I'm sure
so
you
at the
compared
time,
them.
I'm thinking, this is a little strange,
Right.
but whatever. Right.
So she's in the office, or on the table. She's telling you she's pregnant.
Yep.
You're happy.
I'm happy. She's very stoic, I guess would be the best way to put it. Not excited, and not really showing any emotion at all. And then knock on the door, doctor comes in with 2 nurses. I'm thinking, that's a little strange. It seems like a lot of people for an ultrasound or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing equipment being rolled out. And I'm thinking to myself, now I've seen movies where they do ultrasounds and they don't look like that.
So you didn't recognize the equipment.
I didn't
You didn't know
recognize-
what the equipment was for.
No, I had no idea. And the doctor looked at her and asked if she was ready to get started. And I kind of questioned. First I questioned her. I said, "Get started with what? What do you mean get started?" And she just kind of ignored me and kind of said, looking at the wall the other direction, "I don't want to keep this baby." And at that point, I put on the brakes.
Yeah. So what happened?
I got very, I don't want to say agitated. I wasn't angry at that point. I was confused. I was anxious,
Yeah.
I guess. Like, what do you mean you don't want to keep this baby? Like, this is something that I want, that we want.
Right. And did you say, we haven't even talked?
Right. Yeah, I did. We haven't even talked about if we were to get pregnant, if you were to get pregnant, what those steps would look like.
Right.
And I'm here thinking I'm supporting you when really I'm witnessing something that I 100% don't agree with.
Right.
So then I turned to the doctor and asked the doctor, I said, "What is going on? What are you doing? Like, do I not have any say in this whatsoever? Like, this is my child."
Yeah.
Right? And at this point, I started to get a little more agitated.
Right.
A little more frustrated.
It started boiling because
Yes.
you're realizing what's getting ready to take place. They're
Correct.
fixing to abort your baby. They're getting ready to
Right.
abort your baby.
And I went back and forth with the doctor a couple times.
So you and him had a confrontation.
We did.
Okay.
And that's when he looked at me and said that I had 2 options. He said, "You can either go to jail or you can stand there and shut up."
Oh my goodness.
So at that point, I was really conflicted on, do I support my soon-to-be wife
Yeah.
through this, or do I stand up for what I believe and walk out?
Right.
I thought I was doing the right thing
Right.
by supporting her. I knew it was a medical procedure, so I did.
James, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And when we return, James is going to finish with his testimony.
God values all life, even from conception. Donna Grisham and the vision of her ministry, Journeys of Choice, is to empower women through counseling, parenting classes, and by providing alternate options to choose life for themselves and their unborn child. With prayer and dependence on God, Journeys of Choice is committed to saving the lives of unborn children, while at the same time offering courage, assistance, and healing. For more information, visit journeysofchoice.org.
Welcome back. I'm here with James Durbin. James, in the last segment, you were at the place of telling us where your fiance had had a doctor's appointment, which really was an appointment with Planned Parenthood. You took her to what you thought was a doctor's appointment. Then you went in with her, and you were getting ready, you and the doctor, you had a confrontation with the doctor about that she was getting ready to abort, have an abortion.
Correct.
Start from where you left off.
So once I had chosen to support her and stay with her, they really got the, they got the equipment ready, sanitized, all that stuff, and the sound of the machines turning on, I'll never forget the sound. Any guys out there that have a shop vac, it's very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar to that sound. And I heard that turn on, and to the right of my head was a clear glass container. It was probably 8 inches tall, probably 6 inches around, up at the top of her head. And all of a sudden, the sound of suction started happening, and I could see in the corner of my eye, it didn't start out red. It was more of a clear, kind of whitey substance. So I'm thinking, okay, that's not as bad as I imagined it would be. And then it looked, by the time the procedure was over, that container looked like somebody had thrown a live animal in a blender and pureed it into a billion pieces and liquid. It is absolutely the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. What were your thoughts at that time?
I had mixed thoughts at the time. I thought that, that I had done the right thing by staying and supporting. And then I was also convicting myself in my mind
Right.
of how could I stand here and watch this and be a part of this. It was very hard. It was very hard to see that. So once the procedure was done, not a word was said between her and I in
So
the
you
room.
left the clinic and went back home?
Yeah, so she got all cleaned up, got dressed. They did her exit paperwork, all that stuff. I was sitting in the car at this point waiting. She got in the car. We didn't speak the entire way home. We didn't talk when we got home. She came in, she went to bed. And I just sat there and thought, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
And how did you, after that took place, what did you do that helped you cope with the fact that the approval of what just happened?
We as, I don't want to say just men, but I think we as humans just tend to justify things.
Exactly.
And we push everything that's negative or any negative connotation to anything we experience, and we just push it down and don't talk about it. And that leads to a whole host of coping mechanisms.
Right.
Alcohol, drugs, smoking, you name it. I mean,
Right.
whatever your vice is where it ends up.
Right. So you just started, drinking and doing drugs to cope with the fact that this is what happened.
Right.
And that was your way of coping.
And in that time, immediate fix, yeah, it worked,
Right.
for the short term. However, going as long as I did without dealing with it, without going to the Lord
Right.
and asking it off of me, those alcohol problems and drug problems can be a lifelong issue.
Exactly. Right.
She and my ex-fiance, she actually turned to meth as her coping mechanism.
Right. Now, did you and her ever marry?
We did.
Okay. Y'all married and then?
Yeah, we were married 7 months after that. We had a very small wedding, a destination wedding. And because of the addictions and the never dealing with anything, it was a very short relationship.
Right. She had, she was dealing with the same thing, because I'm sure she had to deal with some emotions afterwards. Even though she wanted it, she thought it was, I don't think I've seen a woman that has had an abortion that has not dealt with it in some way or another. They either go to drugs, alcohol, or they turn to Jesus and takes. But, when you've got a couple and they're married, you're married, sometimes we think that's a fix for what we just did, what happened. Was it a fix?
Absolutely.
Did it help that you married? You two married?
It did not. Actually, I think it compounded the issues between us, because then there's an expectation of marriage that neither one of us could fulfill because of the addictions and everything that we were dealing with.
The father has emotions too. Some of them turn away and they don't want nothing to do, and they don't care. Some men like you, even though you went and you were there with her and you didn't want it, I know for me, I have to speak for me, I look back at my abortions and I regret, and when I say this, I don't live in a state of regret. I don't live there. But I do regret not speaking up, not saying, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. Do you regret at that moment? Do you regret that point?
Going back there, I regret staying in the room.
Yeah.
Because I made it very clear to the doctor that I did not want that to happen. And that's when I was given the ultimatum. Right. And I didn't want to go to jail either.
Right. So you just felt like that's the only choice that you had.
In that moment, being that young, I believe that was the only choice that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. What you've went through, God takes everything that we've been through. Nothing that we go through is wasted. We think, I've made this wrong choice or I made that wrong choice. It's so neat because God already knew the choice that we were going to make. But God also knew that this day was going to come and that you were going to share. So we're going to take a break. And when we return, James is going to finish telling his story.
You may be in a situation where you are at a crossroads between the choice of life and the choice of death. Life may have stopped for you, and you are fearful of what your future holds. Abortion, rape, adoption, and more are covered in Donna Grisham's book, Journeys of Choice. As you read these pages, you will see for yourself the truth behind choice and the effects of the choices we make. See how God wants to intervene in your situation and change the course of your life forever. Find hope and healing for those who have been faced with an unplanned pregnancy. Know that God has not left you and wants to bring hope to your hopelessness. Every testimony in this book, Journeys of Choice, will bring healing and hope to the brokenhearted, revealing what was meant for evil and harm, and show you how God can turn it around for good and blessings. This heartfelt book will inspire, motivate, encourage, and assist you on the road to recovery that will bring a wellspring of hope into your life and others.
Welcome back. I'm here with James Durbin. James, we just heard your story, your testimony is just like heartbreaking to me. But there's a redemption part of this story.
There is.
And I love when God He takes and He uses that pain and that hurt and He brings, joy out of it. And you were able to meet your son in heaven. God took you to heaven. In a vision. I want you to share that with us.
Absolutely. So, like we said before, stuffing things down can really put you in a spot where you have a choice to make. You know, this was 20 years ago
Right.
that I dealt with this, and pushing that down for 20 years, my life got to a point where I either had to take it to God and get healing from it,
Right.
or I was going to ruin my life. I mean, that was just what it was. So I really surrendered it. I really took it to God, really prayed about it, asked God to take it from me, take the pain of it from me. And in a vision, you know, I asked God if I could meet my son. And just because I felt it was a son, I guess I didn't know at the time, but
Right.
he showed me a vision, and this part of the story always makes me a little emotional.
It's okay.
He showed me a vision of a little boy, probably around 5 or 6, walking through a field holding an adult male's hand, which I believe was Jesus. I believe that he was walking with Jesus
Right.
to come and see me, to come and meet me. Then the Lord said that I could name him, which was amazing. So I prayed about it. Almost the next day, I came to the name Dominic, which my current wife and I looked up, and the name Dominic actually means with God.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So I mean, that, at that moment, what did you feel, the emotional feeling, and what did you?
All sorts of feelings, you know. The first time seeing him, sadness,
Yeah.
pain, regret, all the things that you would imagine meeting somebody that you witnessed that happen to. And then once I got to meet him and I got to see Jesus and I got to name him, this story I can tell now, not out of a place of hurt or a place of fear,
Right.
out of really I can tell it from a standpoint of the only way to get healing from the woundings that we experience, no matter how old we are, is to deal with them,
Right.
take them to God,
Yes.
and allow Holy Spirit to heal those spots in our souls.
Jesus is the only way
That's it.
for healing. He's the only one that can heal.
That's right.
You know, because you had before that, you had battled throughout, from the time the abortion took place, all throughout until that
Years.
moment. How long ago did this happen?
This has been a fairly recent
That's what I thought.
healing.
Yeah,
I would say 3-4 months ago, maybe.
right. So
And I have not felt lighter about this subject, more confident to be able to tell this story than I ever have before. I haven't told anyone this story.
right.
My family doesn't know.
Yeah,
Nobody knows.
yeah.
So,
I remember that we were going to do a show, I think, last year,
yeah,
and you were not ready.
nope.
You were not ready because you had not gotten the healing. You know, you were still in that process of, you know, you were still in that struggle.
Yeah,
And it's a long, drawn-out struggle.
It is.
It doesn't just, you know, when Planned Parenthood pushes abortion, and a woman has an abortion, and they say, "Oh, you'll get over it. It'll be fine." You know, it's not.
dads don't either.
Yeah, dads don't either. That's exactly. Dads don't either. You're right. I mean, that's like, you know, saying, they tell you, oh, it's like pulling teeth. you're going to pull your teeth, and the next day you're going to be over it. It's not like that.
It's not.
The trauma of that stays with you. I mean, the trauma of seeing the suction of that baby. And it stayed with you, and you masked the pain of it with your alcohol and addictions and all. And so many men and so many women, that's what they do. They mask that pain. And we even have, I believe there's even women and men that are at abortion clinics, and they stand out and they help these women and escort these women into these abortion clinics, and they themselves have experience, and that's their way of masking their pain.
I agree.
See, we have different ways of masking pain. You know, some do alcohol, drugs, you know. So, okay, we know abortion doesn't affect just the woman. It doesn't affect just the baby. The baby, let me tell you, the baby is the one that suffers, and it suffers pain.
Yeah.
Okay? But men suffer as well. Dads suffer as well.
Absolutely.
James, I want you to look at the camera and talk to that one man. That one man that his girlfriend's pregnant, and he don't know what to do. He thinks that the abortion's the answer because that's what's being told to him. So he's talking to her and he's telling her, you've got to do this. What would you say to him?
Really, I would just say to any man dealing with this subject of abortion, whether you want it or your girlfriend or wife wants it, there are other answers. There are other directions you can go. Have a voice. Stand up. If you don't believe in it, stand up and say you don't believe in it. If you want to fight for it, fight for it. Go to God with it. God will make the right thing happen. That's just what God does. And if you are a man that has experienced something like this and you're in the spot that I just spoke about, you have to take it to God. That is the only way. You can try anything to mask it. You can occupy your mind. You can occupy your feelings. They're still there. They'll come out when you least expect it. And until you ask God to remove those things from you, you will never feel whole, and you'll always be missing something. I think that was the biggest thing. I felt like I was missing a piece of myself. So it's not an easy journey. Lots of emotions, lots of feelings. But on the other side of that journey is the best feeling you could ever imagine.
Thank you, James, for joining me today. And thank you for joining us today. Visit my website, journeysofchoice.org. I would love to hear from you. See you next week on The Real Pro-Choice.